For people who just joined, we just were doing a little check-in that we will be recording this, so making sure that that's okay with everyone. And I'm pretty sure you're gonna get something on your screen. Normally it does that where it's like, if you're okay with recording this, but if not, it's just gonna be recording like the people talking. So you could just ask your questions in the chat and it should be fine.
Okay, it's 7:06, so we're gonna go ahead and start. So hello, thank you to everyone who came out tonight to our portfolio building workshop. We're gonna be talking about building a design portfolio. We have a lot of different tips and tricks to give to you tonight, and we're gonna be sharing a couple portfolios too, so yeah.
So I'm Simran. I'm the co-director of CTD. My pronouns are she, her, hers. To give you an idea, I'm looking to go into UX design or motion design of some sort next year. So I'm looking for UX design intern positions for next year, as well as junior level design positions.
I'm Nisha. My pronouns are also she, her, hers. I'm the marketing lead for CTD, and I'm also looking forward to showing you guys my portfolio and Simran's portfolio, and we're going to be talking about how we will be using these portfolios to look for like internships and stuff like that. So yeah.
To give you an overview of what we're going to be going over, I said over twice, that's funny, but we're going to go into portfolio basics, what is it and all that. Then we're going to talk about what you should include on there, what are some like basic guidelines there, getting creative, making your portfolio stand out so it's not just like any other portfolio, and when hiring managers look at it, they're interested. Branding yourself, this is something that I know I struggled with for so long and it took me a long time to find something I was happy with. Some examples of portfolios, and also like sharing some resources and doing a Q&A at the end. Also for the examples portfolios, we're going to be sprinkling those in all throughout. So you're really going to get a couple examples throughout this whole thing. So
Cool, thank you. So what is a portfolio? A portfolio is basically a display of all your projects where you can showcase your abilities as a designer. A lot of people don't have portfolios, and that's okay. People have resumes, obviously, but as a designer, I think it's pretty like relevant and important, especially in the industry today, to have a portfolio. I definitely know a lot of companies ask for your portfolio when you apply for things and you like have what's it called, interviews and stuff like that. But yeah, so having a portfolio does set you apart from others, especially when you're trying to secure a design role. So yeah, we're going to go into more of what a portfolio consists of.
yeah, I completely agree. I know when I was looking for internships for this summer, as soon as I had, even though my portfolio is very rough, as soon as I added that to my resume, I saw the difference in like the callbacks I got. So here's some places you can build it. I've heard so many different stories of how people have their portfolios displayed. Some people have them on PowerPoints and they like share it as like an email attachment with people, or like they have it linked on their resume. Some people have it on, like there's so many different ways, but I think the most standard right now with everything, like currently right now, everything's online, has been to display your work on a website. And there's a bunch of different ways you can build a website. We have a bunch of website builders displayed. So we have Weebly, Wix, Webflow. I personally used Webflow to build mine, and Nisha, you used Wix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're great, super intuitive, easy builders to use if you don't have much coding experience or you're trying to get it done quickly. There's also a lot of room for customization. On the other end, you can also code it. This would be really great if you're coming from a technical background and you're interested in combining both design with your technical background to like show your work. And so you could use HTML, CSS, React, and just create a portfolio that way. But these are just like 4 examples. There's so many more different ways. These are just ways that we're comfortable with and we wanted to share with you guys.
Yeah, so we have a portfolio in front of us right here. Her name is Dua. We know her because she was a speaker for CTD in the past. She is currently a product designer, and this is how a typical portfolio could look. We're gonna go into a little more details about how her portfolio looks in like the next couple slides, but this is just a nice frontal view of what her portfolio consists of. As you can see, it just has like her name, her like area of interest, where she's from, a little bit about herself. But yeah, this is how a general portfolio looks when you first enter a page.
Yeah, so some things that you should probably include when you're creating your portfolio is you'd like to have the basics. You want to have your contact information, so your email, your LinkedIn. You could even add some socials. I know I personally have my Dribble on my portfolio, which Dribble is just like a graphic design type Pinterest type thing, but don't put socials that you wouldn't want them looking at. So I wouldn't add like my personal socials just because it's not relevant to design. Your resume, whichever, that's just like a staple. Like you don't have to have it on there, but having it on there can be nice. Case studies and other projects. We'll be talking about the differences between these and what exactly a case study is in a second, but there's that. A little bit about you. Who even are you? What makes you special from someone else? It's your website, so you want to make it show you. And then usability is something that people tend to look over, but it's definitely really important because if you're applying for design positions, if you want to make sure that your design of your website is good, because they're going to be looking at that. Like they're going to be looking at how useful your site is. So
Yeah, so speaking of projects on your portfolio, we have a case study versus other projects. A case study is generally like the main overarching project or something you really want to exhibit as like your project of like focus. We will be looking into a couple case studies, and some other projects could include side projects or maybe like other UI UX projects that you think are important enough to be on your portfolio. Portfolio generally has maybe like 3 to 4 projects on it, I would say, 4 maybe being the max, because people tend to look at your portfolio in one quick glance and you're not trying to overload them with information. But yeah, so yeah, Simran's going to show you how Dua's portfolio looks real quick now.
yeah, so I'm going to show you a little bit of a breakdown between a case study and other project. There's a bunch of resources to explain details of the difference, but just in oversight, here we have Dua's portfolio. As we looked at earlier, it's looks like this, and then she has her projects as her selected works. That's really important to remember. These are your spotlight projects. It doesn't have to be all your projects, but your favorites. And so she has this one, which is her undergraduate design thesis, which is product design user research. Then she has Knowledge Depot, which is a UX UI design project. Then she has Headspace, which is UX motion design, as well as a product analysis. And then she has this, which is like a redesign / UX UI design. And so automatically looking at this, I can tell that her overarching theme is that she's interested in UX UI design, but she also has some projects going into more of the research as well as motion design. So it makes me think, okay, maybe she's also interested in doing something in motion design. If, for example, you're really not interested in brand identity, I would not recommend putting a brand identity project on your portfolio, because they're going to kind of gauge how you are as a designer based on this. And then to show you a little bit of the difference between a other project and a case study, I would consider this, for example, to be a case study. And so if I were to open it up, she starts off summarizing, not sure what happened here, but she starts off just summarizing a little bit of her project, and then she like explains it. She goes through the challenge, the solution, defining the problem. So a lot of times in a case study, you're going through the whole process. You're finding a problem, you're doing the user research behind it, you're iterating on it, and so you'll see all of that. So here's her user research, her whiteboards, like why are they doing this? It goes a lot in detail. It's very text heavy, but it really just like explains her thought process. And so like these are the wireframes, and she's even like wrote in captions for why each one is like that and everything like that. And then she has her style guide with all her like stuff like that, and then her reflection. But that's her case study. As you can see, that was pretty text heavy, and that can seem a little overwhelming, but you don't need your entire portfolio to be case studies. It's just good to have at least 1 or 2 of those. And then on the other end, if I show you Headspace, her motion design project, this one is a lot like shorter. Like if I were to quickly scroll, it's a lot shorter, and it's a lot more just like focused on what they were doing. There's not really any user research to it because she's more focusing on this animation aspect of it. So I hope that kind of explains a little bit of the difference like between the two, but it's good to have a mix between the two as well. So that's just an example by Dua.
Cool. Next up, we have branding yourself. So branding yourself is basically the part of your portfolio in which you get to incorporate a little bit of your own persona. This can be like whatever your personal style is, or own whatever your own creative mind chooses to portray to others. With branding yourself comes balancing professionalism and your style. So remember not to make everything too like playful, or it's yours, but other people are looking at it too, especially companies, especially other people in the field. You kind of want it to be relevant and not too like playful all the time. You know what I mean? Yeah. Also, don't feel shy to stray from the norm. This being like, people generally have just their projects on their portfolio, which is totally fine, but don't be afraid to put yourself out there a little more. You can include your projects like outside of design too. It gives people a little bit more like of a look into like what you're like slash like a flavor of yourself onto the page. Yeah, so branding yourself would be the easiest way to maintain a theme slash aesthetic throughout the entire project of your portfolio. We're going to look at another portfolio from a past um, officer of CTD.
So yeah, so we're going to be showing you guys Matthew's portfolio. Matthew was a officer at CTD in spring, and then he's graduated since then. So immediately opening up his portfolio, you can see there's a font theme, there's a color theme. You can kind of get a feel of his interest as a designer just looking at it. But what I'm going to be focusing on is this boba theme he has. So as you can see, it says, "Hi, I'm Matt, lifelong believer, designer, and learner and lover of boba," which is like something that shows a little bit of his personality, but is also still like focusing on the design aspect of him. And then if I were to scroll down, I'll just open up this project. His theme is carried on. The fonts are the same. It's not like he suddenly changed the fonts of this part. And then also something small that you can notice is that he has in his tools, he's written Adobe XD, Photoshop, G Suite, Final Cut Pro, WordPress, and Boba, which is just carrying that theme very subtly, but it's still there. And then if I were to go once again to his About Him page, like I said, the fonts and everything are consistent, but then another small thing, which is just small, but it's just like something that you can notice, is that he's drinking boba in his picture. And if you scroll down to like his little pitch, because a lot of times people tend to add a little bit of a pitch of themselves in their About Them section, he's written, "So if you want to talk more about design or why you should always go for at least 50% less sugar in boba tea, contact me." And so these are like some small little things. It obviously doesn't have to be a food. It doesn't even have to be like in this manner, but just the way he's branded himself, he's just tied this, incorporated like this theme of like boba, as well as like his branding is all the same. I didn't even notice up here, he wrote this here too. So it's just an example of one way you can do it, but there's so many different ways. And I know that this is something that might have a lot of iterations to it, because branding yourself can be hard because you're like a person, you're not a company, but it's just about finding that balance between the two, professionalism and yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Usability and responsiveness. So coming with the portfolio, there's a lot of factors you have to like take into account when you create it, because it's a mini design project making the whole portfolio itself, and it gives people a little bit of a look into what your design capabilities are without even opening your projects, because your portfolio itself is quite the project. It does take some time to put together. But on top of that, you should also be trying to make your portfolio easy to use and understand for people, especially like if someone came onto your portfolio and they wanted to like find a specific action, your job is to make it as intuitive as possible for them, right? As you would in a regular design. Your portfolio shouldn't be any different. So like say I just wanted to like, if you scrolled on a page, like having the button that said back to top might just be simpler for someone than having to scroll all the way back to the top if it's a super long page, just like that. So like things that make things easier for the user to view your portfolio as well. This falls into the same category as accessibility. There's a lot of people who have different types of issues when looking at portfolios. This can be like considering if someone's colorblind, like using specific colors, using specific like shapes, you know what I mean? So yeah. And then responsiveness and multi-platform friendly, this being like, if you don't know what responsiveness means, it's just like being mobile friendly. So a lot of companies don't always, or not even companies, just like people, if they look at your portfolio first glance, sometimes it's on their phone if they're trying to do it really quickly, right? So it could be really easy if you had a mobile version ready for people to see, this being the responsiveness of it and multi-platform like aspect of it. But yeah, that's basically it for that.
Yeah. Also something just to mention that I've heard, I'm not a hiring manager myself, but I've heard that a lot of times when they're looking at your portfolio, they don't look at it for very long, but something that they'll commonly do is, even though they're at a desktop computer, they will make it small and big just to check, like, do you have a mobile version? Just because like if you're not putting that effort into your own website, it just shows your attention to detail for future projects. So when you're working on a portfolio, you might be wondering, where do I find these projects? And I know a lot of times our first thought is internships and jobs, because that's what makes the most sense in our head, that like that's where you get your projects. But that's not the only place, though. It's great to have projects from internships and jobs. There's plenty of other places you can get projects to get started today. You can do some freelancing. You could look for people or companies or just like small whatevers that are interested in needing designers, and you can contact them and get in talking like that. You can do a redesign. I think this is a really great way to get started, and I recommend everyone to try and do some sort of redesign at some point, because it really does help you get an idea of the basics at least. And so you can redesign an app you really like or an app you don't like at all, and kind of do a case study like that. You can do a side project with your own ideas. So if you have something that you really wish there was an app for, or just like want to play around with, you can go through the whole ideation process, you know, do the user research, do the like storyboarding and everything, and build something like that. A great place is hackathons and designathons. I know most of my beginning projects were from hackathons. I loved going to hackathons, and so that was how I kind of dabbled into it at the beginning. We did Just Design over the summer, so that's one of the places. And Santa Cruz has tons of hackathons. There's tons on MLH, so those are really fun. And then you could also just work with friends. Like if you have any friends who are also working on their portfolios and they like need some help, or if you have some like developer friends and they want to add something to their GitHub, so you could like mash it together, you could do that. But overall, the idea is that you don't need to get an internship first. You can start your portfolio now, and then the internship can come later. It's just, there's a bunch of different places you can get projects. So
Okay, so that's most of the information we wanted to share with you. Here we have a couple examples. There's mine, Simran's, and Krupa's. We're all officers. And at the bottom, there's a link for Cofolios, which is a fun, nice place where you can see other like portfolios of people who have really nice ones. We take a lot of inspiration from them. Yeah, so we're gonna do a quick walkthrough of our portfolios real quick. Okay. Yeah, so this is my portfolio. There's my name at the top, a small picture of me, a little bar that has like all my different areas that I want to share, a little hello, a description about where I go and stuff like that. And then if you scroll down, my relevant projects are visible. These are the ones that I want people to like immediately look at when they come to my page, right? Which is why they're on the very front. I'll take you through my case study really quickly. This is a short video about how to run through my app that I redesigned, which was Messenger. As you can see, I have a lot of like little circle things. It's like my theme that I try to maintain throughout my portfolio. They like flip. I don't know. I think it's cute. And I keep like a consistent theme of colors and font, if you've noticed as well. And then like, as you can see, I tried to like separate some parts so that they stand out a little more. Yeah, so it's just like a rundown quickly, like my sketches, my designs. But yeah, general idea, this is how some case studies look. Mine's a little text heavy, but I don't know. I enjoy writing, so that's on me. And then I have a research tab. I don't think a lot of people do this, but I told you I enjoy writing, so I just wanted to like jot down some, it's like a little write-up I made of my research experience. But yeah. And then remember when I said making your portfolio a little unique isn't a super bad thing? That is my art section. I do like to paint, so I included like, you know, a little bit of my art here, for example. But yeah, so as you can see, I try to maintain like a solid color scheme and theme. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. No, don't look at that one. But as you can see, I tried to maintain like a theme throughout my entire thing by using the same fonts and colors. And I kind of have a really like minimalistic thing going on, a lot of white space. It's something I'm still working on. But as of right now, this is my portfolio. Yeah. Simran, you want to go?
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your portfolio. I know how scary it is because I'm about to do it, but I really like one thing I really like about your portfolio that we didn't talk about, but it's like something you can incorporate is how you've highlighted a lot of key points. So, like I said, people who are looking at your portfolio, they're gonna look real quick. They do not care that much about the details, and so you've kind of made it super simple. Like real quickly looking at it, I can see the pain points of the project and everything like that. So, love that. Hold on, since I'm screen sharing, I'm waiting for the thing to go down so I can show you my portfolio. So this is my portfolio. It's currently hosted on Webflow's domain because I'm having a bunch of dumb domain issues. But starting off, you can already see some differences from Nish's portfolio and mine. I have my bar up here, and then I just have a little bit about me. And my color scheme is, I definitely struggle with my color scheme a little bit because I like brighter colors. I'm like, my favorite color is yellow and orange, like all these bright colors, but I wanted to find the balance of professionalism with that. So I tried to go for a little more muted color, but still bright. But anyways, yeah, I also even have CTD right there in my description, which is funny. There's CTD's website. But if I scroll down, you can see my projects. I have my UX UI design redesign case study, and then I have a motion graphics and interaction design I did for my research lab, which this isn't fully fleshed out yet, so I won't be showing you this today. And then I have brand identity and UI design I did for GraceHack. So I have a variety of different projects. If I can go through the case study to show you the difference real quick. So this is my Disney Plus redesign I actually did with another CTD officer. One thing that I did that I just liked, that I noticed from like looking at other people's portfolios I like that when you first come to like a page, you can quickly see what the project is. And so what I did is I had this slider that automatically changes from a further away wireframe mockup and to a closer away. So you could quickly see the difference. Like you can see up close and you can also see further away how the design looks. I also have a description as well as a video preview as well as a view prototype. So depending on who the person is, how detailed they want to get into looking at the designs, they can see that. And I quickly say my role in the project, who I worked with, the tools, and the timeline. And then, yeah, like every other case study, I go into the background, the problem, the solution, the research, the walkthroughs, pain points, ideation, kind of similar to the one I showed you from Dua. I just go through each step of the process and like the key features that we made. And then I have my takeaways on the bottom as well as this is what the video. So if you click on the video thing on the top, it takes you down to here so you can quickly see like the final video of it. So that's my case study. I only have one case study in my portfolio as of now, but then I also have this, which is a brand identity and UI design project. So this is not as heavy on like the user research. It's more heavy on the graphic design aspect. And so on here, once again, I have the 2 slides of like the work I did and like the site, my role in the team, background, goals, and like something I focused on in this one is like the way I worked within this team, because this was like a project I worked on with like a team of different people. So I worked with the tech and the PR team. So I talked about that, our design system. And this is my first time doing like more of a graphic design heavy project. So I talked about that, the t-shirt design, and then takeaways. As you can see, this was like significantly shorter than the other one, but that's because it's like a different type of project. Outside of this, I have my About Me page where I just like talk about how I got into design, what I'm doing, kind of do my little pitch thing or whatever. Not really that great, but I tried. And then I have my recent projects. And then I also have my personal projects on here. Like Nisha has her painting page. I just have them on my About Me page. And I talk about why they're important to me and how they connect into like who I am today and why they're important to me. So that's what these are. And yeah, that's kind of my portfolio. Besides that's just my resume and my email. So
I really like your title font.
thank you. It's Cooper Black, my favorite font. But literally you can see the difference between me and Nisha as designers and like just through our portfolios. But
That's so good. We have really different styles, but yeah, cute.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, now we're going to quickly show you Cofolios, which is a nice platform where there's a lot of different examples of portfolios of current designers and interns that are also designers. But yeah, they have like companies down here. It's laid out like super nicely, simple. Could you click on one of them?
Let's click on Twitter.
Yeah, so here it says Twitter interns, and then you get the links to their portfolios. It's
Oh.
okay, not that one. But yeah, it's like super nice. You could get a lot of inspiration from these.
Yeah. And a
Definitely.
lot of times also the people who are on co-folios will have like office hours. So you can go like talk to them, especially if you have a dream company in mind, you can like get an idea, and they have Medium articles. So I definitely recommend
Yeah,
checking co-folios.
yeah. It's like a really nice website to look at portfolios, especially people like around our age and looking at the same interests of us. It's like a good space to understand where other people stand so you can like catch up or even get started, you know? But yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's like all we have for you today. If you have any questions, feel free to just speak up or drop them in the chat. We'll be sharing these slides with you. And yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask now.
Yeah, I have a
But
question.
mhm.
So you guys mentioned like 4 different websites for like making portfolios, like Wix and like the other ones. But what do you guys like recommend? And like what benefits do they have?
Mhm. I can talk and then we can both answer this because we actually both are using different things. So I personally use Webflow. I used to have my portfolio on Wix, but I don't know. I just felt like I was kind of limited by it. I didn't have wasn't able to do as much as I wanted to, and I had issues with it being kind of slow, especially with my like motion graphic project. I found that it was being really slow to load. So I switched to Webflow. I think the workflow of it, like making my portfolio, has taken me a lot longer because it's a lot more, it's not like coding, but like you have to know the basics of HTML, CSS. So like if I want to add space to something, instead of just moving it, I have to like add padding, which is just like very basic things, but like it makes you work a little slower. But I like my portfolio way better now, and I think I'm a lot happier with how it's turning out. So that's, I recommend Webflow if you're interested in putting a little bit more time into it. But
Yeah, I think Webflow is super nice. I haven't really had a chance to explore it, so I can't speak on it, but
mhm,
I immediately used Wix when I made my portfolio because a lot of other people told me that if I wanted to make my like first one and
mhm,
simple, like Wix is like a good starting point, which is like where I am, I think. So I stuck with Wix, and I have to admit, using Wix, I do like I like the layout of Wix a lot. Like mobile and desktop are right next to each other, and you can like easily navigate how to use the different tools. I
true.
also think it's really easy in terms of trying to get a domain, which is like a struggle. I know me and Krupa bought our domains at the same time, and we were like, because you have to pay a bunch of money, and then it's like Wix just like helps you like do the steps a lot more easier. But yeah,
Yeah.
um,
I would have to agree with that. Like, I think I'm having a lot more issues with my domain, but that's also because I bought my domain with Wix and I have to like move it over. But overall, Webflow doesn't support domain configuration, so you have to have bought your domain from a third-party source, which is normally like GoDaddy or Google sites or something like that. So
okay, cool. Does that answer?
Thank you. Yeah, that was good. Thank you.
Okay, we have some questions in the chat. I'm gonna read one of them. When you guys mentioned that portfolios should have 3 to 4 projects, is that including case studies? Um, yeah, by 3 to 4 projects, I mean, if someone comes onto your page first glance and they start scrolling and see the main projects on your page, that's what I mean by 3 to 4 projects, and one of them should be your case study.
yeah.
So that should be like, I don't know, your first one or something, like whatever one you want, like the focus to go to, that's your case study. Does that answer your question? Hope it
Yeah.
does. Okay. Um, Cool. Another question. What are some ways to do research for case studies, and are there certain things you should focus more on when researching? You want to
Do you want me to tackle? Okay, so I recommend starting off with doing some like either a survey of some sort or doing interviews of people in the demographic of what you're building. So, for example, with the Disney Plus project, we were focusing on college students. So we did some interviews of college students, just asking them questions about their experience with the app, what they thought of it, what, and just kind of like gauging how they felt about the current app, trying not to be too biased, try to keep your personal biases out of it. And then we also made them do like a walkthrough to see how they currently engage with the app to kind of get an idea of like what were their pain points, if that makes sense. And then from building pain points, you would then go on to user personas and so forth.
Yeah, I could just like really quickly on my case study show the like research
Yep,
process.
go for it.
Would you open it up?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, cool. So on my case study, so basically you start off by figuring out like what people don't like, this being through interviews and stuff like that. And the interview process is a lot of what this part of my thing is. So it's like, who are the users? Why do they use it? And what are their concerns? Like if we look at the first person, it says that like it's a little description of, yes, the slides will be shared. It's a little description of what this person does, why they use the application, and then what bothers them about the application. This part is like the last sentence is obviously the main highlighted part, but it's a lot of like stitching together of like all the problems that they give to you. Like they didn't tell me this straight up. They told me like, I don't like this, I don't like this is annoying, this is hard to use, I don't know where this button is. And so in my head, like I had to come up with like a way to phrase this a little better, if that makes sense. But when people read it, they should be able to get like a more simple idea. Yeah, so the research process includes a lot of talking to other people first and figuring out what they don't like so that you can put down their pain points and then start brainstorming on how to fix them. So this part being like, this is what's bad, this is what can be fixed type of idea, if that makes sense. Yeah, but I hope that answered your question. Are there certain things you should focus more on when researching? Remember that when you're making these projects, it's not about the design itself, it's about the user.
So true.
Yeah, like your design obviously is important because that's what's creating the whole thing, but you don't have a design without knowing what a user wants, right? So when you interview someone, you try to figure out what they like, what they don't like, and you keep those in mind, you write them down, because that's what you have to implement into your own project. Without what their words are, you will literally have like nothing. So remember, you're doing it for the user, not for yourself. Even if you like a design more, other people might not. So you have to like remember to find like the right balance, especially when you're catering to other people.
Yeah, I definitely think sometimes, especially when like, for example, in redesign type things, you have like, I don't like this about this app, I want to change this. I felt like that in the Disney Plus redesign. But when we were interviewing people, I had to be as non-biased as possible. And I found that they didn't have the same pain point I had. And so I had to kind of take a step back and focus on the person, because even if you personally feel one way, that doesn't mean that all the people feel that way. So you have to remember that. So.
Right. Cool. Another question. What programs do you guys recommend for building these designs? And is there any you find companies tend to prefer? Personally, I use Figma for almost everything because it's just so nice and intuitive and free, and it's free and it's collaborative. So like, like working with other people is so easy on it. Like I literally use it for basically everything. But
Thank you for these slides.
companies, on the other hand,
I think a lot of companies have used Sketch and Adobe XD like in their company, mainly just because like Figma is a newer tool and XD and Sketch have been out for longer. And so like switching workflows can be very tedious. And so since they're already in a workflow with Adobe, with XD and Sketch, they're still using it. I don't think though, if you were to just not, like, let's say for example, I know that Santa Cruz has free Adobe XD, but let's just say for example, you didn't have the money to afford it and it wasn't free for you. I don't think companies will penalize you for not using XD and using Figma instead, because a lot of these softwares are pretty intuitive. I remember when I first downloaded XD, I was like, this is so similar to Figma. So I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I feel like
But
as long as you are proficient in like one of them, you will be able to pick up the other ones.
agreed.
Not saying rely completely on one and like, but don't be afraid of other platforms. Like you'll probably be able to pick them like quickly if you understand how to use like a standard one at least.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
I don't see any more questions, but yeah, okay, cool.
You can wait like 2 more seconds. I said a minute or two, but if that's everything, we'll probably just wrap this up. Yeah.
Cool. If you guys have like any other questions, any other tips on redesign?
Do you want me to, I can.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. For a redesign, I think it's really fun to pick something like an app that you're passionate about. I actually saw this on Twitter. couple days ago, so this is not even me speaking. But for example, let's say like I okay, I have a ukulele in the background, as you can see, and so I have a ukulele tuner app on my phone. And so I use that app consistently. I know, as like someone who plays the ukulele, I know a little bit more about like what I really want from it. So if I were to do a redesign of a ukulele app, I'd be able to go more into those pain points of the user. So it's also like a fun place where you can actually show a little bit of your personality without even meaning to. Like I might just be passionate about my ukulele, so I'm like passionate. I don't think anyone's passionate about a tuning app, but I can like show a little bit more of the attention to detail with that. So if you have anything like that that like, is an app that you're personally using a lot and you're doing a redesign of that, it might be kind of fun. It just makes it a little bit more fun and a little more personalized, I think.
I totally agree. There's so many apps that I open these days where I'm like, ooh, I want to redesign it, which is not good because there's so many on my mind that I want to redesign. But definitely pick something that would like fit in your little corner, like of interest, especially because then it's so much more fun to redesign. Also, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah. I don't see any more questions, but if you
Yeah.
guys have any more questions later, feel free to ask anyone through anything. We're on like every social media, and we have an email and a Slack, so
Yeah,
don't.
you can ask us in the Slack channel, any officer really in the Slack channel,
Yeah.
DM us on Instagram,
Mhm. Yep.
or email us. Thank you guys so much for coming to this workshop, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Bye.
Thanks for being here.